Ladies, let me ask you something. How much of your time, your energy, and your focus are you giving away without even thinking twice? You've been conditioned to believe that giving more of yourself is the way to get more in return. But the truth is, you're undervaluing your most precious asset, your attention. Your attention is like a treasure, and it's time to make sure that he earns it. Your attention is the most precious asset you have, yet too many people give it away without thinking. The truth is, the moment you start treating your attention as a valuable resource, everything begins to change. Imagine for a moment, what would happen if you shifted how you allocate your attention, if you stopped letting him have your focus without earning it? The moment you realize the value of your attention, you stop offering it freely and begin to require that it be earned. And when he realizes this, things will never be the same. You've been taught that the more you give, the more you'll receive in return. But that's not true. There's a fundamental difference between giving out of love and giving out of habit. When you give him your attention freely, it becomes a pattern. But what if you started making him prove that he deserves your time, your energy, your affection? What would change if you demanded respect and effort in return for your focus? This shift isn't about becoming cold or distant. It's about taking control of your own worth and raising the bar of what you will accept in your life. So here's the first truth. Attention is not a free gift. It's a choice, and it should be earned. Every time you give your focus to someone, you're investing in them, sometimes without realizing the cost. By giving your attention away freely, you may be draining your own energy, leaving you feeling empty or unappreciated. Instead, let him earn it. Don't just hand it over because it's easy. You have a responsibility to protect your energy, to protect your peace. Once you start valuing your attention in this way, he will either rise to meet your expectations or he'll fall away. Now, think about this. How many times have you given attention to someone who didn't deserve it? Maybe it's a pattern, maybe it's unconscious. Maybe you've been caught in a cycle where you felt that by offering more of yourself, you can change the dynamics of a relationship. But let me be clear, you can't change someone's behavior by constantly giving. The only way to change a relationship is by setting boundaries and making it clear that he needs to put in the effort. If he truly values you, he will rise to the occasion. Here's where the power of boundaries comes into play. Boundaries aren't walls. They are simply the rules of engagement in your life. When you set boundaries around your attention, you're teaching him that you're not an option. You're a priority. You're teaching him that your time is valuable, and if he wants to be part of your world, he has to earn it. This isn't about being distant or closed off. It's about creating a relationship where both people are equally invested. When you make him work for your attention, you're showing him that respect is non-negotiable. You're teaching him that attention is a currency, not a handout. But here's the thing. When you demand respect, you elevate the relationship. You don't just create space for someone to show up. You create a space where both people are equally contributing. If you're the only one giving, the relationship will always feel unbalanced. But when you require that he earn your focus, it forces both of you to step up. It challenges him to meet you at your level, to show you the commitment and effort you deserve. You raise the standards for both of you, and in doing so, you raise the level of respect and connection. This is where the real transformation happens. By setting high standards, you raise expectations. And when you raise your expectations, he is left with a choice. Meet them or walk away. The key to this dynamic is understanding that you're not asking for more effort from him, you're demanding it. And this doesn't mean playing hard to get or being manipulative. It means you are deliberately choosing to make your attention something worth earning. Think about the relationships in your life. What would change if you no longer gave your attention to anyone who didn't meet your standards? The people who truly value you will rise to the occasion. The people who only want to take from you will fade away. This is the magic of setting clear standards. It attracts the right people and forces out the ones who don't belong. The key is to stop giving away your attention like it's a free resource. Instead, make him work for it. Make him prove that he's worthy of your focus, of your time, of your affection. You deserve someone who will invest in you just as much as you invest in them. You deserve someone who will rise to meet your energy and your commitment. You don't need to chase. You don't need to force things. Just raise your standards, make your attention valuable, and watch as he rises to meet you. When you start letting him earn your attention, you'll see how the dynamics of your relationships change. You'll see how he will begin to show up in ways that are meaningful, intentional, and committed. And when you see that effort, you'll know that it's real, because attention that is earned is always more powerful than attention that is given freely. So start today, make him earn it. Watch how everything changes when you stop settling for less and start demanding the respect you deserve. You might have felt the sting of someone taking your attention for granted, assuming it's something he can just expect without effort. But here's the truth. Attention is not a given, it's earned. Think about it. How many times have you dropped everything, invested your time, and given your focus to him, only to receive little in return? How often have you felt that nagging feeling that you were giving more than he was willing to give back? This is the moment to stop and ask yourself, why am I putting in more than I'm getting back? The truth is, attention should be a privilege, not an entitlement. When you start viewing your attention as something precious, something that should only be given to those who truly deserve it, everything changes. It's time to stop treating your attention like it's something anyone can demand. You are worthy of having your time, energy, and focus reciprocated with respect, value, and effort. And when you start treating your attention with that kind of importance, you set the stage for healthier relationships and a more fulfilling life. Think about the dynamics of most relationships, whether romantic or platonic. How often do you find yourself overgiving? You send the first text, you make the first call, you plan the first date, and sometimes you're the one who keeps the conversation going. All of this without ever seeing the same effort from him. If you've experienced this, you know how exhausting it can be. You're the one carrying the emotional weight, constantly wondering, why isn't he stepping up? But here's a game changer. When you stop giving and let's be honest, when you're constantly giving attention to someone who isn't giving it back, it's not only draining, it's disrespectful. The longer you allow him to take your attention for granted, the more you send the message that you don't value yourself. So it's time to flip the script. Make him earn your attention by showing that your focus is not for free. If he truly wants it, he has to prove it. He has to show that he's worthy of your time, your thoughts, and your energy. Now, this is where it gets really powerful. When you stop giving attention to someone who isn't showing you the same level of investment, you create space for the right people to enter your life. You stop wasting time and emotional energy on people who aren't willing to put in the work. And in that space, you will attract those who are willing to meet you where you are, who are ready to give you the attention, love, and respect you deserve. This is not just about romantic relationships. It applies to friendships, work relationships, and every interaction where you're expected to give your focus to someone who isn't reciprocating. Your attention is that valuable. But here's the truth that many don't want to face. When you stop giving your attention so freely, you might face resistance. He might push back, trying to make you feel guilty, trying to manipulate you into giving him the attention he feels entitled to. But here's the secret. Don't fall for it. When he tries to make you feel bad for holding back, it's a sign that he knows deep down that his effort has been lacking. It's a way for him to try to regain control, but this is when you must hold firm to the boundary you've set. Your attention isn't a currency that anyone can demand. It's something that is earned. And this doesn't mean you shut him out completely or play hard to get. It means you recognize your worth and make it clear that your attention is something to be earned. It means showing him that you won't give it away for free, and that if he wants more of it, he needs to step up in ways that truly matter. It's about demanding more respect and effort, not for the sake of control, but because you deserve it. Now let's look at the bigger picture. What happens when you stop giving your attention unconditionally? You start to understand your own worth. You stop chasing after the validation of others. You stop waiting for his call, his text, or his attention. Instead, you focus on yourself. You invest in your own growth, your own well-being, and your own happiness. You stop making your worth contingent on whether or not someone else gives you attention. And in that space, you'll find freedom, you'll find empowerment, you'll find that the right person, the person who truly deserves your attention, will rise to meet you. And here's the final piece. Making him earn your attention isn't about being cold or distant. It's about being self-assured. It's about knowing your value and demanding that others recognize it. It's about teaching people how to treat you by setting clear boundaries and expectations. And once you do that, you'll find that the people who truly value you will show up, and those who don't, they'll fade away. And when that happens, you won't have to look back. There's a profound truth many fail to recognize when it comes to influence and respect. Actions always speak louder than words. You've probably encountered someone who can talk a big game but fall short when it's time to deliver. Maybe you've even found yourself in situations where promises were made but none were kept. It's easy to say the right things, but it's much harder to back those words with meaningful actions. This is where true leadership comes in. It's not about what you say, it's about what you do. He might say he wants to change, but does he take the necessary steps to make that change happen? She may promise to do better, but when it comes time to show up, does she deliver? These are the questions that reveal the true character of a person. Words alone cannot create lasting change or inspire others to follow your lead. It's the consistency of actions over time that shapes trust, credibility, and respect. When you lead by example, you are showing him and her how to behave. You're demonstrating the standards you expect others to uphold. And here's the secret: people follow what they see, not what they hear. If you want others to rise to a higher level, you first have to rise yourself. It's that simple. If you want respect, show respect. If you want honesty, embody honesty. If you want commitment, give commitment. So think about this concept that you want to inspire, you want to give, you want a commitment. The key to inspiring others isn't by telling them what to do. It's by showing them how it's done. He may test your patience and she might challenge your values, but your response, the way you handle these challenges, is what truly matters. When you stay grounded in your values and show consistent actions aligned with your beliefs, others can't help but take notice. Your behavior becomes the silent instruction manual, the roadmap to how you expect to be treated and how you treat others. Words can inspire, but actions empower. There's something incredibly powerful about someone who leads with integrity, someone whose actions speak louder than any motivational speech. When you take the first step towards something, whether it's personal growth, maintaining boundaries, or taking responsibility, you set the tone for those around you. You don't need to be the loudest in the room. In fact, sometimes the most powerful leaders are the quietest ones. It's the consistency of their actions that leaves an undeniable impression. It's easy to tell him what he should be doing. It's easy to lecture her about what needs to change. But true leadership comes from showing them the way through your actions. When you embody the values you want to see in others, you become the living proof of what's possible. You become the example others want to follow, the one who inspires, who motivates, not by commanding, but by simply being. Now let's talk about something many people overlook: the importance of integrity in leadership. When you lead by example, you set a standard of integrity that cannot be ignored. Integrity means doing what's right, even when no one is watching. He will see if you keep your word, even when it's inconvenient. She will see if you follow through on your promises, even when the road gets tough. The moment you stray from your values, you send a message that your words don't mean much. But when you remain true to your principles, even in the face of adversity, you inspire trust and admiration. You don't have to be perfect, nobody is, but what matters is your willingness to own your actions and learn from your mistakes. Showing vulnerability can be one of the strongest examples of leadership, because it shows that even when you stumble, you are committed to growth. And that growth inspires others to take responsibility for their own actions. Leading by example also means you take the initiative. It's easy to sit back and wait for him or her to make the first move, but if you want to see change, you have to be the one to start it. Whether it's a simple act of kindness, a decision to improve yourself, or making the hard choice when it's easier to avoid, those actions set the stage for everything that follows. When you lead through action, you inspire those around you to step up as well. But here's the powerful truth: leading by example isn't always easy, and it isn't always recognized right away. Sometimes he won't see your efforts, or she may overlook your contributions, but the beauty of leading with integrity is that the right people will notice. They will see the consistency in your actions, and over time they will come to respect you for your unwavering commitment to your principles. Even when he or she doesn't understand now, your example will plant the seed for change. Leading by example also means taking ownership of your own growth. It's easy to point out what others need to improve, but real leadership starts with self-awareness. Are you living up to the standards you set for others? If you want him to show up, are you showing up first? If you want her to take responsibility, are you taking responsibility for your own actions? Your ability to lead with grace, humility, and integrity will inspire those around you to do the same. In the end, leading by example doesn't require grand gestures or constant validation. It's about consistently embodying the values you believe in, even when it feels like no one is watching. It's about proving through your actions that you walk the talk, because when he or she sees you leading the way, it creates a ripple effect that inspires others to do the same. Leadership is not a position. It's a way of being. And when you lead by example, you set a powerful standard that motivates others to rise to their highest potential. There comes a moment in every relationship when you have to ask yourself, am I settling for less than I deserve? This isn't about being demanding or high maintenance. It's about recognizing your worth and raising your standards to create a relationship that truly reflects your value. When you elevate your standards, you stop accepting anything less than what you deserve. You stop tolerating half-hearted effort, and instead, you inspire him to give you more, because you've made it clear that your time, your energy, and your love are precious. Here's the key. When you raise your standards, you raise the bar for his effort as well. It's a simple but powerful truth. When he sees that you're no longer willing to settle for the bare minimum, he will either rise to meet you or step away. But in either case, you will gain clarity. When you show him that you expect more, he will either become more invested in proving his worth to you, or he will reveal that he isn't willing to put in the effort. And in doing so, you create space for someone who will. Think about it. How many times have you let someone get away with treating you less than you deserve? You've probably given chances, made excuses, or downplayed the things that bothered you, thinking that he would change. But here's the hard truth. Change doesn't happen by lowering your expectations. Change happens when you raise your standards and make it clear that you expect more. When you do this, you create an environment where he has no choice but to either step up or step away. The decision is no longer in his hands, it's in yours. The power of elevating your standards lies in the way you show up for yourself. By holding yourself to a higher standard, you teach him how to treat you. It's not about playing games or using manipulation to get what you want. It's about being clear about what you need and making it known that you won't settle for anything less. You become the standard. You become the example. You make it clear that you are worthy of commitment, respect, and effort. And in doing so, you inspire him to rise to meet that level. But here's the challenge. Raising your standards isn't always easy. It requires you to let go of the fear of being alone, the fear of being too much, and the fear of not being enough. It requires you to be willing to stand firm in your worth, even when it's uncomfortable. It's easy to settle for what you're used to, even if it doesn't fulfill you. It's easy to accept the bare minimum because it feels safer than pushing for something more. But true growth, both for yourself and for your relationship, happens when you push past that fear and set your standards high. Now, let's be real. Raising your standards doesn't mean making unrealistic demands. It's about knowing your value and understanding what you need to feel loved, appreciated, and respected. It's about recognizing that you deserve someone who is willing to meet you halfway, someone who is willing to show up not just when it's convenient, but when it counts. It's about demanding effort, not perfection. He doesn't have to be perfect, but he does have to be present, consistent, and willing to invest in the relationship just as much as you are. And here's something even more powerful. When you elevate your standards, you become a magnet for the right kind of person. By demanding more from him, you're also teaching yourself what you deserve. And when you start living according to those standards, you send out a signal to the universe that you are worthy of someone who is just as committed, just as invested, and just as willing to give as you are. You stop settling for the wrong people and you start attracting the right ones. You stop wasting time on relationships that drain you and you create space for the ones that lift you up. But here's the truth that many people won't tell you. When you raise your standards, you may lose some people along the way. He may not be ready to meet you at your level, and that's okay. But don't let that discourage you. When someone walks away because you've raised your standards, it's not a loss, it's a lesson. It's a sign that he wasn't the right fit for you. He wasn't willing to do the work, and you are now making room for someone who will. Raising your standards isn't about keeping people around at all costs. It's about creating space for the right people to show up. Here's the most important thing you can do when raising your standards. Don't apologize for them. Don't feel guilty for wanting more, for expecting better, for requiring effort. When you stand firm in your standards, you communicate a powerful message. I know what I deserve, and I'm not willing to settle for less. This is not arrogance. This is self-respect. This is self-love. And when you show yourself that level of respect, he will either step up to meet you or he will walk away. And either way, you win. So what's the bottom line here? When you elevate your standards, you elevate the entire relationship. You stop wasting time on one-sided efforts. You stop tolerating behavior that doesn't serve you. You raise the bar, and in doing so, you create space for the kind of relationship you've always dreamed of. One where both partners are equally invested, equally committed, and equally willing to give. You stop chasing after the wrong people, and you start attracting the right ones. And when you show him what a true high-standard relationship looks like, you give him the chance to rise to your level or walk away. And either way, you'll know you've set the standard for what you truly deserve. When you demand respect, you are essentially taking control of your own life and setting the stage for everything that follows. Too often, we allow the people around us to dictate how we are treated, especially when it comes to our time, energy, and attention. We might think that by giving more of ourselves, by being more accommodating, we can earn the respect we desire. But what we fail to realize is that respect isn't something you can earn by giving away everything you have. Respect is something that is earned through your own actions, and the very first step in this process is demanding it through clear, healthy boundaries. It's time to stop pretending that respect just magically happens. It's not something that's given freely. It's something you must demand, and it starts by setting boundaries. So ask yourself, how many times have you let someone walk all over you because you didn't want to make waves? How many times have you let him take your time, your focus, and your energy without ever putting in the effort to prove he deserved it? The hard truth is, when you don't set boundaries, you allow others to dictate how much you're worth. You become someone's option rather than their priority, and that's never where you want to be. Here's the reality. Boundaries are not walls, they're protection. Boundaries are not about shutting people out, they are about creating a safe space where you can demand respect. And make no mistake, he will test those boundaries. He will push to see how far he can go without giving anything in return. But this is where the power lies, in holding firm to those boundaries even when it's uncomfortable, because when you don't, you teach him that your time, your energy, your love are not worth the effort. But when you do, when you say, I am worth the effort, I am worth the respect, he will rise to the challenge. Now, here's the most powerful part. Respect comes from within first. You can't demand respect from others if you don't first show that you respect yourself. Self-respect is the foundation on which all other respect is built. When you hold yourself to a high standard, you show others how to treat you. When you refuse to tolerate disrespect, you teach him how to value you. And make no mistake, he will notice. When he realizes that your boundaries are non-negotiable, it will either force him to step up or walk away. Either way, you will gain clarity and you will gain respect. But let's be clear, boundaries aren't about being rigid or inflexible. They're about knowing where you stand and what you will and will not tolerate. It's about being emotionally intelligent enough to understand that if someone truly values you, he will respect the space you create. Boundaries give you the freedom to show up as your best self without the fear of being taken advantage of. And when you stand firm in your boundaries, you stop settling for less. You stop settling for someone who only wants to take, and you start attracting someone who is willing to give in return. Setting boundaries also forces you to have difficult conversations. These conversations may feel uncomfortable at first, but they are absolutely necessary. How else will he know what you need if you don't communicate it? He may not always understand at first, and that's okay. It's not about demanding instant change. It's about making sure that your needs are heard and respected. The more you communicate your boundaries clearly, the more he will begin to understand that respect isn't optional. It's a requirement. And here's where it gets even more powerful. When you start demanding respect through boundaries, your life shifts. You stop feeling drained. You stop feeling unappreciated. You stop feeling like you're always the one giving, always the one compromising, always the one who cares more. Boundaries give you the freedom to enjoy a relationship that's built on mutual respect and effort, not one-sided investment. You begin to attract people who want to give, who want to invest in you just as much as you invest in them, and that's the power of boundaries. They attract the right people and weed out the ones who aren't serious about treating you well. But let's talk about the key to this all: consistency. Boundaries only work when you're consistent in upholding them. You can't set a boundary today and ignore it tomorrow. Every time you let someone cross a boundary, you're telling him that your standards are flexible, that your respect is up for negotiation. But when you remain firm, when you hold your ground, that's when things begin to shift. It forces him to evaluate his actions and decide if he's willing to put in the effort to earn your respect. And this is where the magic happens. When you demand respect consistently, he will either rise to meet your expectations, or he will reveal himself as someone who isn't worthy of your time. Now think about this. What kind of relationship could you have if you made respect non-negotiable? What kind of relationships would you attract if he knew from the start that your time, your love, and your attention were earned, not freely given? By setting boundaries, you stop wasting your time on people who aren't willing to meet your standards. You stop settling for relationships that drain you. And in doing so, you create a life filled with people who truly value you. The bottom line is this: demanding respect through boundaries isn't just about protecting yourself. It's about claiming your worth. When you do this, you take control of the narrative. You stop letting others define your value. You start defining it yourself. And when you do that, he will have no choice but to meet you at your level or walk away. But whatever happens, you'll know that you've set the foundation for a life and relationships that truly reflect the respect you deserve. Commitment is the foundation of any meaningful relationship, yet too often we give our all without ever seeing the same level of dedication in return. Imagine for a moment what would happen if you showed him what true commitment looks like. What would shift if you stopped waiting for him to take the lead and instead set the standard for how commitment should be demonstrated? The truth is, when you show him what commitment really looks like, you don't just change the dynamic between you. You transform the entire relationship. You've probably been there before, giving your time, your attention, your love, and your energy without ever truly seeing the same effort returned. You may have questioned whether you were asking too much or if you were doing something wrong. But here's the hard truth. Commitment isn't about giving without expectation. It's about creating a mutual exchange of effort, respect, and investment. When you start showing him what true commitment looks like, you stop settling for half-hearted efforts. You stop accepting anything less than your worth. The first thing you need to understand is that commitment is an action, not just a word. It's easy for someone to say, "I'm committed to you," but words are meaningless if they aren't backed by consistent actions. Commitment is about being there when it matters. It's about showing up even when things aren't perfect. It's about making sacrifices for the greater good of the relationship. So when you show him what commitment looks like, you lead by example. You demonstrate through your own actions that you won't settle for anything less than a commitment that is solid, reliable, and unwavering. You teach him that love isn't just a feeling, it's a choice that requires effort, day in and day out. But here's where it gets interesting. When you show him what commitment looks like, you force him to rise to the occasion. No longer will you be the one doing all the work. By setting the standard for commitment, you hold him accountable for meeting that standard. You show him that commitment isn't just about saying the right things, it's about doing the right things. And make no mistake, he will notice the difference. When he sees that you're committed to the relationship, he will either rise to meet you or fall away. But in either case, you'll know that you've set the bar high and made it clear that you are worth the effort. It's essential to understand that commitment isn't just about the big gestures. It's about the small, everyday choices. It's about consistently showing up for each other, even in the little things. When you're committed, it shows in the way you communicate, the way you listen, and the way you support each other through challenges. It's about making sure that your actions align with your words. And when he sees that your commitment is unwavering, he will be inspired to match it. This is the power of leading by example. When you show him what true commitment looks like, you make it clear that you expect nothing less than complete dedication in return. And here's something even more powerful. Commitment is contagious. When you show him what commitment truly looks like, you set a tone that encourages him to give the same level of effort. It's a ripple effect. Your actions inspire him to act with more consistency, more effort, and more love. The key here is that you don't have to beg, plead, or chase. You simply need to demonstrate your own level of commitment, and in doing so, you inspire him to rise to your level. This isn't about changing who he is or pushing him into something he isn't ready for. It's about showing him what's possible when both people give their all. You're leading him towards a higher level of connection, a deeper bond, and a more fulfilling relationship. But let's be real, commitment requires boundaries. It's not just about giving and giving until you're drained. It's about setting healthy boundaries that ensure both parties are equally invested. When you show him what commitment looks like, you teach him that commitment is not just about staying present physically, but emotionally as well. You demand emotional availability, consistency, and mutual respect. You teach him that true commitment involves being emotionally present, actively listening, and being willing to work through challenges together. Without these boundaries, commitment becomes an empty promise, one that only leaves you feeling unappreciated and undervalued. And here's the final truth. Commitment isn't one-sided, it's a partnership. You can show him what commitment looks like, but it's equally important that he demonstrates it as well. If you're the only one putting in the effort, then you're not truly experiencing a committed relationship. You're experiencing a one-sided investment. A relationship that is built on true commitment requires both people to show up, to give their all, and to support each other. So when you show him what commitment looks like, you're not just setting the standard for yourself, you're setting it for the relationship as a whole. Teaching him that commitment is not just about what you do for each other, it's about what you both do together. So ask yourself, what kind of relationship do you want to have? What would change if you showed him what true commitment looks like? What if you stopped waiting for him to make the first move and instead took the lead? The truth is, when you show him what commitment really looks like, you take control of your relationship. You create a dynamic where both of you are fully invested, fully present, and fully committed to making it work. And when he sees this level of dedication, he will either rise to meet you or he will fade away. Either way, you've set the foundation for something stronger, something real, and something lasting.